Hello, everyone. I feel so uh, lethargic, but hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ebonscape. I am Mel. I am me, and you are you, and I hope you will like and subscribe this. So I'm here again today for another, how shall I say, ramble. This time about the Odyssey. So I have stayed away from this topic a while because, quite frankly, I am, well, I didn't really want to give it any oxygen. That's just how I feel about these things. But, it's gotten to me, and I'm sure it's gotten to you as well. It's hard to ignore. The movie comes out on July 17th. So if you're chronically online, if you're not, be grateful. Then you might have seen the criticism about the Odyssey. Chiefly, once again, we're here. Hollywood is here. The usual suspects are here. The Odyssey, um, in which Lupita Nyong'o, who's a Kenyan actress, will most likely star for 2 hot minutes as Helen of Troy, but nonetheless, here it is. There's controversy. So, these topics make me uncomfortable. I like nuance, and sometimes these topics are hard to explain with nuance. The topic, of course, Lupita Nyong'o's casting in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. She's portraying both Helen of Troy and her sister Clytemnestra, who's married to Agamemnon, who's the brother of Menelaus, who's husband of the aforementioned Helen. So brothers married to sisters. Anyway, Helen is a mythological character born of the swan Leda and the god Zeus, and she is supposed to resemble a Greek woman. And well, Lupita does not resemble a Greek woman. She's neither Greek nor Greek passing. The defense of this film is that everyone in the movie is no one in the movie is Greek, but everyone is Greek passing. So, that's the defense, and Lupita is neither. So here we are. Yeah, the fallout was predictable. And I've said in the past, personally, that I don't care for race swaps. But, here we are again. And this time the race swap is a little bit more because it's full on racist, click and bait, rage bait. I didn't want to give any of this oxygen. So, but here I am. Oh boy. I think really what really irked me a lot was the edited photo of Lupita Nyong'o passed around, which was taken from 12 Years a Slave, a movie from 10 plus years ago, her debut film in which she portrayed an abused and emaciated enslaved woman. And the photo's authenticity was irrelevant to the usual suspects hiding behind historical accuracy to hurl racist abuses at Nwongo, calling her disgusting or simian, abusing her looks. The irony of them, starting an internet war over a woman they all proudly brag they would never go to war for. But, I'm not trying to take away authenticity from them, even though it cannot hide behind sheer racism. And even though I understand the frustrations of casting, actors in these roles. So you have, but a lot of this goes beyond, racism because there's no excuse for racially abusing her, even if you disagree with her cast. And the Odyssey itself has been criticized for a lot of its postmodernisms, a lot of its, the use of American accents, colloquialisms like dad instead of father, and, you know, Agamemnon's armor, which looks like a bat suit. And many people even accuse it of, bending the knee to the Academy Awards DEI mandate as the motivation for the racially diverse cast. I don't think it's the Academy Awards DEI mandate. I don't think it, but I do think this is ideological. I think this is more ideological. You can hear Christopher Nolan talk about his motivation for a casting, his interpretation of the Odyssey. Ooh. So his interpretation of the Odyssey is based on a 2017 translation by a feminist classicist, um, Emily, I believe her name is Emily Wilson, you know, and that's the version he is going with, which is described as a deconstructed feminist version of it. So I guess it's a version that empowers the woman and deconstructs a lot of the what is seen as the elevated language and a lot of that's, but you can hear him talk about it. He doesn't really address the casting, although we are being told that Lupita was the only one he wanted for the role. So immediately this is suspect, but I don't think this is, I think this has less to do with the Academy Award and more to do with ideology, a subversion of what you see as beauty standards, if anything. But, while the right leaning critics level their attacks on Lupita's race, I find that the left leaning the apologists are problematic as well because a lot of them, often make what I call the gaslighting arguments. So they will claim things like there's no specific description of Helen of Sparta, knee Sparta, and or it shouldn't matter because it's based on myth. The characters aren't historically real people. Oh, the narrative has cyclops and witches and monsters, and why are you bothered by a black woman? Oh, they're saying Lupita isn't beautiful. All these claims are intellectually dishonest. Helen might be a mythical character, but her character is grounded in a real place with real historical people. Yes, she was born from a swan and her father is a god, but the Greek writers describe Helen as resembling a Greek woman. So it's irrelevant the nature of her birth. What matters is that she physically resembles a Greek woman, and Lupita does not. It's dishonest because we do understand that people create mythical characters in their image. All people do that. Chinese mythical characters look Chinese, Nigerian mythical characters look Nigerian. So I just find this argument to be very lazy intellectually. Whatever the case may be, she's described as a Greek woman and looking like a Greek woman. Furthermore, it's not true that we don't even know what she looks like because common descriptors of Helen is either fair or white armed or light featured, Um, so even if she wasn't described as fair skinned and light arm and light creature, she was described as a Greek woman. So we know what Greek people look like, and that would mean whoever plays Helen would still need to look Greek to some degree, and Lupita does not. I've seen people even argue that the word fair doesn't mean light skinned. It does. Those things go hand in hand. But on top of that, the claim, and I hate this claim that monsters and cyclops somehow means you should undermine the portrayal of humans in a story. It's intellectually offensive, and I say this as a writer of the speculative. The fantastical doesn't mean a story and the humans who occupy it should not be grounded in authenticity. And furthermore, this is not so much fantastical as it is mythical. Mythical stories tend to have some sort of grounding in their cultural context, as usually they're speaking about some aspect of their culture. you know but the logic doesn't hold, and I don't really like a lot of the dishonesty of a lot of this. Anyway, the Odyssey may, this is not a hill I want to die on. The Odyssey may very well be a popcorn flick. However, the casting of black actors for me does have real implications, including but not limited to the very real loss of opportunities for black actors and creators. I mean, casting black actors in inappropriate roles rather than producing and funding authentic opportunities does lead to backlash against black actors, which can also be used to justify not producing black centric type of properties. And I would prefer authentic black properties. I would prefer if you leave the Odyssey to people of European descent or white passing persons, and develop more black centric stories and mythologies, or rather, because I find that to be the way to go. I don't find this race swapping stuff to be legitimate. You know, no, Lupita, of course, has responded to some degree about the attack she faced, and she's been very dismissive, saying things like, "You can't portray beauty," but I think this is again disingenuous and is besides the point. It's not whether Lupita Nyong'o is beautiful. I've always thought she was. I have an entire gallery dedicated to her style, so that should say something. But I just find it very inauthentic, and it's not legitimate a defense of these types of castings. And I would prefer if we stop doing these castings and just start investing in black creatives. We have our own stories, we have our own ideas, we have a lot of things to say. Anyway, not to toot my own horn, and I will, but if you're into authentic black stories about black worlds, and you don't mind reading about something unique that's not stepping on anyone's toes, that's not being done out of ideological deconstructivist mindset, then I would recommend my novel The Civilization of Light and Dark, which is out now wherever books are sold. And this is what we really should be doing, supporting black creatives. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about the Odyssey casting. Again, I don't know why I use this photo of Lupita, but she's a beautiful woman. It's just she's not Helen of Troy, and whoever plays Helen should be Greek or Greek passing. I don't see any of this getting better, and I don't see why we continue to do this. And I really just think at this point there is no excuse. But again, this is not a hill I wanted to die on. But please leave Lupita alone with your racism, because that doesn't help either.